accumulate, but I believe that the breakout for HDFC Limited could happen only if the stock breaks out of the 2,300 mark for itself. That's maybe 3%, 4% away from current levels, but that could be a point where you can look to average it out furthermore. But on dips, you can look to accumulate further.
Okay, this one is coming from Dheeraj, and Dheeraj wants to know whether it makes sense to enter tin plate at this juncture. Kunal, this question is directed to you, so what's your take?
Well, I would suggest you can look to buy or average at current levels. The stock has come back towards its 200 DMA 320 odd levels for tin plate. So it's a good point where you can look to start accumulating. But because of the high beta nature of the stock, I would suggest that buy it in tranches, maybe 3 tranches. You can start at current levels and then maybe another 10% lower from current levels is where you can look to proportionate more.
Okay. We've got another question. This is also for you, Kunal. We've got Vivek, I believe, who's, let me just clarify. Yeah, this is Vivek, and he's got HUL that he's bought at levels of 2002, and he's looking to sell this and buy mid caps. He's looking to buy 2 or 3 mid caps, and he's clarified that this is not the only large cap that he holds. He holds Infosys, HDFC, Bajaj Twins as well. So he's looking, I think, to make a strategic call to sell HUL at this point, and he's looking at a couple of mid caps. Which one would you suggest?
So my sense is that I think he's trying to add a lot more beta to his portfolio by selling these low cap names, low beta cap names for himself, and the fact that he has a lot of other large cap names also tends to give that his portfolio is more balanced as such. Now, if you're looking out for mid cap stocks, then I would believe that few mid cap names from the pharma pack for something like Granules looks attractive to me on the charts on the more short to medium term kind of a time scale. L&T Finance at I think 74, 75 levels where it's currently trading also looks quite attractive from a medium to long term play. The stock has also gone through a correction for itself. From the other stocks, from the mid cap names, you can look at something like HDFC Life as well. The stock has been more balanced at current levels. From the banking names, I would probably prefer that if you can stick to large cap stocks like Kotak, etc. If you already have that, and if you're looking to add mid cap names, then I think Canara Bank or Bank of Baroda could be better bets.
All right, this one is for you, Vikas. This one is from Sukanya, and she's saying that she's purchased Karur Vysya Bank 200 shares at a price of around 143 rupees per share. Does mention that she purchased this long time ago. But what should she do right now? Does it make sense to stay put with this one for the longer term? If you look at the buy price, it's 143 and the stock currently, I believe, is trading around 44 rupees. So what should she do?
Investor is sitting on huge losses, and still I would not recommend that she continues to stay with her investment in Karur Vysya Bank. If she wants to stay put with the banking sector, I think the better ones to bet on would be an ICICI Bank or an HDFC Bank after the recent fall. I think these kind of stocks should be the one which one should be investing into from a long-term point of view.
Okay, next one's also for you, Vikas, and I'm hoping that you have a view on this. We've got Anthony who's asking about Deep Industries and Deep Energy Resources, both of which he's been holding for years now, he says, and he's asking whether you have a fundamental call. He says, in his words, I've got my head above water as of now.
Sorry, Alex, unfortunately I do not track both these stocks and not be able to offer my opinion on the same.
Let me then come back to you and say that if you don't have specific coverage on these stocks, you must have coverage on the sector, and therefore within the sector, do you see any better names based on fundamentals?
Yeah, as far as this is concerned, I think it does something in oil exploration. It's related to oil exploration sector, and I think from that sector, the one stock which comes to my mind would be Cellon Exploration, which looks good, and I'd had a look at it earlier, and I do not know how does the stock say perform these days. But any spike in crude prices is good for these kind of companies. So Cellon Exploration would be the stock from this sector which one could keep on radar.
Right. This next one is for you as well, Vikas, and this one is from Joyshila Prema, and wants to know which is the best buy for the longer term. Is it Hinduja Global or is it Vaibhav Global?
On both the stocks, actually, I do not like them, or I have not been able to track them very closely. But I think if one were to choose from among the two of them, I think Hinduja Global would be a better bet. They sold some of their business, and then since they did not pass on the entire consideration to shareholders, the stock was beaten down. Well, I think it's a good quality company, and one could look at it if one were to choose from between the two stocks which he's asking for.
Vikas, you always have the option of choosing a third stock that is unrelated from these two if you don't like either of them. But we'll save it for the next one. Gaurav from Indore is asking about NMDC. And he's already holding, Kunal, he's got 4,600 shares, which he's bought at levels of 150. He's got a short-term view. What should he do with this?
So I think he's bleeding a lot because the stock has now come back towards 120, 122. I would suggest that if you can probably cap the fall by buying a put option in case if you would want to hedge, that could be a better strategy because the metals and the commodity stocks, they're actually going through a very sharp kind of a correction, which can accelerate if the market also gets into a corrective mode further. So I think it makes sense to try and hedge at current levels. And not to average. I would suggest that maybe over the next 1 or 2 months, if these stocks they come back towards strong support territories, for example, NMDC could come back towards maybe 100, 105 kind of levels. That could be a point where it could come back towards a major support territory for itself. So no averaging at current levels, and if possible, hedge your holdings which you already have.
Okay, this one also is for you, Kunal, and this one is from Amy. She's saying that she sold Astral May futures at around 1920. Wants to know whether she should book profits or roll over this.
Well, I would suggest to roll over the shorting which you've done. You can probably have a trailing stop loss mechanism. I think the stock is at 1660 approximately, so possibly a 50-point trailing stop loss could be a good trailing stop loss for Astral.
Okay, a lot of short-term queries coming your way, Kunal. This one's on BPCL, and we've got Duvuri, who's asking about the counter. He's bought at levels of 420, slightly elevated levels. What should he do right now?
Well, not to average. I think the charts for these stocks have deteriorated significantly. In the last, I think, 8-9 months, they've been having a very sharp downtrend for themselves, most of these oil marketing companies, and same is the case with BPCL as well. No major signs of revival for the stock. I would suggest an avoid, and possibly the stock rallies up and say maybe comes back towards 360, 375 kind of a territory. That's a good price level where you can look to exit and shift towards quality large cap names.
Okay, this next query that I have is from Samir Jana, and he wants to know whether it is the right time to shift or to allocate funds into the pharma sector, and also which one among those counters in the pharma space is a good one for investment. Also, he wants to know about Navin Fluorine, but I think we will leave that query for some other time. For now, let's talk about pharma space. And Vikas, do you think it's the right time to shift focus to the pharma space once again?
The sector is a defensive sector, and times like these when there is uncertainty in the markets, I think there could be some good quality pharma stocks which one could look at. And the best bet would be a Dr. Reddy's, which I like, despite the fact that it is not corrected as much as the other stocks in the sector. And from among the mid-cap space, I'm bullish on a stock by the name of Aries Life Sciences. It's a good quality pharma stock from the mid-cap space, and I like that stock, so one could look at that also.
We've got a very short-term query, and this is in fact intraday. Prashant is asking about this. Intraday Nifty level is what he's looking for. And Kunal, we were speaking just before the program started. There are certain levels that you're looking at very closely. Could you explain that?
So 16,220 is the resistance for the Nifty on spot levels. I think today also we managed to make a high just around that 16,220, 225 mark for the index. But on the other hand, the support for the Nifty is at 16,100 mark. Now, if that gets taken out, then I believe that the fall can get a bit more accentuated for the markets on the downside. So we are trading into this very contracted kind of a range for the index, but 16,100 is the most important support. If you break that, then I believe that there could be more sell-off or selling pressure in the markets, even on an intraday basis.
Okay, this one is coming from Sai Kumar, and he wants to know. He wants to know whether he can continue to hold IDFC First Bank. He's bought about 10,000 shares at around 39 rupees per share, and he's been holding it for the last 3 months. So he wants to know whether he can continue to hold on to it. What's your take on this one, Kunal?
Well, I would suggest to hold on at least as of now, because the bank Nifty is outperforming now. Of course, IDFC First Bank has not been a great performer. It's been a stock which has continued to sulk in the last I think 9 months, 10 months from a price point of 65, 66 mid of 2021. The stock has continued to get into a corrective phase. But then if the bank Nifty continues to outperform, or if there is any phase of a rally where the consistency from large cap private sector banks improves, then I believe even the mid cap stocks, they would get into a phase of rally and outperformance. So I would suggest a hold at least as of now for IDFC First Bank.
Okay, I'm coming to you on this next one, Vikas. Bandhan Bank is the name of the counter. The stock, according to Vijay, and he's tuning in from Gurgaon, has corrected to 340 levels or thereabouts, and he's wondering what to do based on the fundamentals. Is this something that you can buy at this juncture, or would you suggest a stronger name in the financial space?
As far as Bandhan Bank is concerned, at the current levels, the stock looks good. It could correct some more, but since the banking sector is looking good, and from within the space, I think this has shown strength if you look at it from a technical point of view. So I think one could continue to hold on to Bandhan Bank. But if one were to buy something from the banking space, I think it would be better to get into a bank like an ICICI Bank or an HDFC Bank, or even an SBI at the current levels, if one wants to put in further money into it.
All right, so that is actually one of the top favorites that's coming in from Vikas when it comes to the banking space. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, for all of those who actually ask queries, does it make sense to invest in those? There you go, he's given the answer to that particular query. Moving on, this one is coming in from Mahendra Patnaik, and this one also is from the banking space, but he's saying that he has 3,000 shares of PNB, which he purchased at the price of 32 rupees per share, and he's been holding on to it for the last 1 year, or sorry, over a year. But now he wants to know whether he should hold it, sell it, and if sell it, should he go ahead and move to Canara Bank? What's your take on this one, Kunal? On the charts, how does PNB look to you? Do you think it makes sense to sell it right now and invest that money in Canara Bank, or something else altogether?
So the strategy part is, right, that I think it's time that he makes a shift from PNB towards Canara Bank. But then the timing may not be, great, because PNB is going through a sharp correction mode, as well as Canara Bank is looking a bit more vulnerable, at least on the short-term charts, maybe due for at least another 5-7% correction from a short-term play. So I would suggest that wait out for maybe the next couple of days, over the next couple of weeks. If PNB rallies and comes back towards 33, 34 kind of levels for itself, that could be a good time where you can look to make that shift.
Okay, a couple of viewers are looking for a view on Adani Power. You have Neha, who has bought 120 shares at levels of 249, and she's asking whether it makes sense to hold for the long term. We've also got Avijit, who says that he's a small investor who's recently entered the market. He's bought 412 shares of Adani Power at levels of 322. They're both looking at long-term prospects of this counter. Vikas, on the fundamentals, what would you suggest that they can do?
No, I think they continue to hold on to the stock. The stock has shown resilience in this kind of a market also, and the quarterly performance was excellent. And power sector is also in a sweet spot right now. So I think the earlier investor who's bought it at 250 odd levels is sitting on some profit. So I think he or she could continue to ride that profit. And the second one who's sitting on a small loss, I think he should wait it out. And I'm sure once the market sentiment improves, then this stock also would give some substantial upside from the current levels. So I would maintain a hold at these levels.
All right, let me take this next query that I have from Padma. And yes, Padma, I'm very sorry, couldn't take your query earlier. Let me take this one. And Padma is saying that she has exposure to the real estate space, and she has DLF, Godrej Properties, Brigade, India Bulls, Colte Palter, you name it. Those are the counters that she has in her portfolio in the realty space. But now she wants to know whether it makes sense to continue to have exposure to the real estate space, or should she sell some of these counters and look to buy some other sector or stocks. What's your take, Vikas? Do you think it makes sense to stay put with an interest rate sensitive sector like real estate for the longer term, or should Padma look to switch to some other sector or some other stocks?
Yeah, first thing, she should not be putting all her eggs in one basket. She should not be invested in only one sector. So if that is so, then she certainly needs to reduce exposure to the real estate sector and buys some stocks from some different sectors also. So I think from the real estate sector, the stocks which she owns, I think DLF and Godrej Properties, they look good. They could be continued to be held on to. And if she were to sell the other stocks which she has in the real estate space, I think she could look at banking, which looks good. Then I think to play the real estate sector, building material sector also can be a proxy to that. And there are some good quality companies from the building material segment which are looking good. So one could look at them also. So I think she could diversify into banking, then building material. These are the kind of sectors she can look at.
We've got an interesting question coming in from Sandeep, and he's writing in from Tirupur in Tamil Nadu. This one's for you, Vikas. And he's thinking of getting Asian Paints, HUL and Titan. And these, of course, are all frontline companies, but he's looking at the next 4 to 5 years. Would you suggest that he can consider all of these for his portfolio, and what strategy should he employ?
Yeah, Alex. All the three companies are really good, fundamentally solid companies, and they've created huge amount of wealth for long-term investors. And I think it would be no different this time. Since he or she has a horizon of 5 years, I think from here on, all the three stocks would give substantial returns. But the only thing she could keep in mind is that since the markets are volatile and uncertain, she could use a staggered approach to be accumulating these stocks, meaning buying some at the current levels and then waiting for some correction and buying some more and accumulating it that way. But over the next 5 years, I think all the three stocks should do well from here.
All right, this one is coming in from Rakesh Sharma, and he has 42 shares of Ruchi Soya, which he's purchased at a price of 650 rupees per share. He wants to know a short-term view. Kunal, Ruchi Soya, 650 is the buy price. Currently, it's trading north of 1,000 rupees per share. Short-term, how does this one look? No doubt it is affected by a lot of news flows, but on the charts, how does Ruchi Soya look to you?
So I think the last 4-5 months, the stock price has improved. The trends have improved for Ruchi Soya. But other than that, you look at the last 1.5 years, the stock had remained absolutely sideways into a very listless kind of a trading range for itself. So which means that possibly, news flows and events, tends to have an effect into the stock price, and otherwise the stock gets into a natural phase of consolidation. Now the question is that the investor is already making a good $400 profit per share on the stock price. I would suggest that you should try and book out your profits over here, or at least try and look at trailing your stop losses to maybe 1,000, 1,020 for Ruchi Soya, and tend to ride it on the upside in case the stock reverses up and manages to rally up higher further.
Okay, gentlemen, it's time to hit the rapid fire segment. Both of you are familiar with the concept, and so therefore I'm going to launch straight into it. The first question is for you, Kunal. TCS is the name of the counter. Mr. Parsi, writing it from Bangalore, is asking about levels that he can watch out for, at least for the short term.
Well, I would suggest to wait out for at least 3,050, 3,100 as a support level for TCS if you're looking to buy.
All right, this one is coming in from Vikas, and I beg your pardon, Vishal, and he wants to know whether it's a good time to add Asian Paints at current level for the longer term. What's your take on this one, Vikas?
Again, as I was telling you, if one is a long-term investor, buy at the current levels and use a staggered approach to accumulating it.
Vikas, Bajaj Consumer, Anjali from Chandigarh is holding at levels of 250. She's asking whether she can hold for the long term.
I think what put on to Bajaj Consumer, quality company.
Okay, this one is from Jitendra, and he wants to know about Infosys. Can we expect some more correction in Infosys before entering and buying the stock, Kunal?
I would expect maybe another 50-70 point correction for a stock like Infosys. So going in line with TCS, same 1350, 1320 could be a point where you can look to buy.
Kunal, GMDC is the name of the counter. We've got Aarti, who's saying that she's currently incurring a 10% loss on her position. She's wondering what to do.
I would suggest to exit the stock because the sell-off is getting a bit more accelerated for GMDC, and possibly the stock can even touch its 200 moving average, which is almost at 110 levels.
Okay, Harsha wants to know, is it the right time to enter United Spirits for a period of 12 months, Vikas?
Yeah, post the correction, I think it's at a reasonably good level and one could buy into the stock, or just again the same thing, since the markets are a bit volatile, she could use a staggered approach to be buying into this. But from a 1 year perspective, it looks good.
Steel Authority of India Limited is the name of the counter. Sale. We've got Rajiv who's asking for a view. He's bought at levels of 108. Kunal, what should he do?
Well, I would suggest a hold, not to average at current levels, even though the stock has corrected sharply, because there could be more correction at least over the very near term.
All right, Vikas, Soumitra wants to know how does alkyl amines look on the fundamentally for the longer term?
It's again a good quality company which could be held on to, but fresh buying is not recommended at the current levels.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. I hate to say this, but Vikas as well as Kunal, thank you so much for taking the time and for all the questions that you've answered. I'm sure you've helped a lot of people today. To all the viewers who've tuned in and who've not had their questions answered, we're here to help you. Do stay tuned with us, and tomorrow we'll start taking queries again. So request you to please tune in again tomorrow, and we'll take as many as possible. We have to slip into a very short break on this note, but we'll be back with more. So do stay tuned.
I can tell you, we believe that we'll be able to reduce costs.
ET is one of my favorites in the world. I'm a fan.